Next, we have the Sazerac here. It's actually one of the oldest cocktails, one of the oldest. It's hard to tell which cocktail exactly is the oldest. People don't really write down when they invent cocktails that much, or when they're drinking cocktails. It's not something that's super well documented in history. But the Sazerac is definitely one of the older ones. It's also the official cocktail of New Orleans, where it was most likely invented, according to pretty much all of the stories and urban legends behind it. It was originally made from brandy. It's believed that's where the name Sazerac comes from, because there was originally a type of brandy named Sazerac from France, where pretty much all brandy is from. And so it's believed that that is where the name came from, but that's, again, urban legend, not super well documented. This was in the early 1800s. Then in the mid to late 1800s, there was a pest infestation in the grape vineyards of France, and brandy then became very hard to come by because the grapes all got killed the brandy production. And so at that time, a lot of people kept making the drink. It was very popular, so they started to switch to rye whiskey because it was much more readily available, particularly in New Orleans. Right, there's a rye whiskey in America. It's very popular, and so a lot of Sazerac recipes you'll find today do use rye whiskey in place of the original cognac. But here we're sticking with the original, the cognac version. So your first step for making a Sazerac is to start with a chilled old-fashioned glass. Now what you're going to do is add some absinthe to it, about a 1/4 ounce or so, and some ice. Now this is basically just going to be like a rinse. So what you're doing here is you're chilling the glass further and rinsing it with the absinthe. So you can give that a stir, and then let that sit. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab a second glass for mixing. You're going to add to it a sugar cube, 1.5 ounces of cognac. You might want to throw the sugar cube in there before the ice, actually. I may make a mistake here. That way you can muddle it a bit. You get that sugar cube mixed up in there. So yeah, make sure you get that sugar cube muddled. There. And go ahead and give that a stir. Make sure that sugar is dissolved and the drink is cooled down. Then you want to add a few dashes of Peychaud's bitters. Again, as I always say, more bitters is always better. And then go back to your original glass. Make sure that's mixed and washed here with your absinthe. Try and get that to coat the sides a little bit there as best you can. And then you're just going to go ahead and dump that. It's just going to get rid of all that. Absinthe has a very strong flavor profile. So if you leave it in the drink, that's all you're going to taste. It's just absinthe. So make sure you get that poured out. And then what you're going to do is you're going to strain your drink into that glass. See if I can do that here without an actual strainer, because I forgot to grab a strainer. I actually did a decent job there, but not the best. All right. And that is your Sazerac. So cheers. And it's pretty good. Again, it has a taste. It's very similar to the old fashioned in that it's like the liquor with the sugar and the bitters is the primary components. But it does have that wash of anise. It is brandy instead of whiskey. And it has that wash of anise, of absinthe. So you get that very strong anise flavor from the absinthe wash. And you do get a bit of that brandy flavor too as well. It's overall, it's a pretty good cocktail. There's a reason why it's so popular.